today about their look into my handling of classified documents. I was pleased to see he reached a firm conclusion that no charges should be brought against me in this case. This was an exhaustive investigation going back more than 40 years, even into the 1970s when I was still a new United States Senator. The special counsel acknowledged I cooperated completely. I did not throw up any roadblocks. I sought no delays. In fact, I was so determined to give the special counsel what he needed, I went forward with a 5-hour in-person interview over 2 days on October the 8th and 9th of last year, even though Israel had just been attacked by Hamas on the 7th and I was very occupied. It was in the middle of handling an international crisis. I was especially pleased to see special counsel make clear the stark distinction and difference between this case and Mr. Trump's case. The special counsel wrote, and I quote, "Several material distinctions between Mr. Trump's case and Mr. Biden's are clear." Continuing to quote, "Most notably, after giving multiple chances to return classified documents,
will he talk about the part where they say he's like decrepit?
Mr. Trump allegedly did the opposite. According to the indictment, he not only refused to return the documents,
they called me
for many
senile,
months,
Jack.
He also obstructed justice by enlisting others to destroy evidence and then to lie about it. In contrast, he went on to say Mr. Biden turned in classified documents to the National Archives and the Department of Justice, consented to the search of multiple locations, including his home, sat for a voluntary interview, and in other ways cooperated with the investigation," end of quote. I've seen the headlines since the report was released about my willful retention of documents. These assertions are not only misleading, they're just plain wrong. On page 215, if you had a chance, I know it's a thick document. On page 215, the report of the special counsel found the exact opposite. Here's what he wrote. "There is, in fact, a shortage of evidence that I willfully retained classified materials related to Afghanistan." On page 12, the special counsel also wrote, for another documents, "The decision to decline criminal charges was straightforward. The evidence suggests that Mr. Biden did not willfully retain these documents."
Will they talk about how they think he's senile?
I did not willfully retain these documents.
Will they talk about how he's senile?
I know there's some attention paid to some language in the report about my recollection of events. There's even reference that I don't remember when my son died. How in the hell dare he raise that?
Oh, he's
Frankly,
mad.
when I was asked the question, I thought to myself, it wasn't any of their damn business. Let me tell you something. Some of you have commented, I wear, since the day he died, every single day, the rosary he got from Our Lady of... Every Memorial Day, we hold a service remembering him, attended by friends and family and the people who loved him. I don't need anyone to remind me when he passed away or passed away. Simple truth is I sat for a 5-hour interview over 2 days of events going back 40 years. At the same time I was managing an international crisis, their task was to make a decision about whether to move forward with charges in this case. That was their decision to make. That's the counsel's decision to make. That's his job. And they decided not to move forward. For any extraneous commentary, they don't know what they're talking about. It has no place in this report. The bottom line is the matter is now closed. I'm going to continue what I've always focused on, my job of being President of the United States of America. Now, thank you, and I'll take some questions.
President Biden,
shit.
Something the special counsel said in his report is that one of the reasons you were not charged is because, in his description, you are a well-meaning elderly man with a poor memory.
I'm well-meaning, and I'm an elderly man, and I know what the hell I'm doing. I've been president. I put this country back on its feet. I don't need his recommendation. It's
How
totally
bad is your memory, and can you continue as president?
My memory is so bad I let you speak. That's
Do you feel your memory has gotten worse, Mr. President?
My memory is not good. My memory is fine. My memory, take a look at what I've done since I become president. None of you thought I could pass any of the things I got passed. How'd that happen? You know, I guess I just forgot what was going on.
Mr. President.
This is not.
Concerns about your age. How are you going to assuage them? And do you fear that this report is only going to...
This is kind of a wild thing for him to do. He's being a wild card.
Mr. President.
Criminal liability day today. You take responsibility.
Bro, this is like what I tell people all the time. Don't feed the trolls. He's feeding the trolls.
I take responsibility for not having seen exactly what my staff was doing. It goes in and points out things that appeared in my garage, things that came out of my home, things that were moved not by me, but my staff.
Mr. President, for months when you were asked about your age, you would respond with the words, watch me. Many American people have been watching, and they have expressed concerns about your age.
That is your judgment. That is your judgment. That is not the judgment of the press.
Oh my God, he's yelling at reporters individually about how he's not old.
Mr. President, in December, you told me that you believe there are many other Democrats who could defeat Donald Trump. So why does it have to be you now? What is your answer to that question?
Because I'm the most qualified person in this country to be President of the United States and finish the job I started.
Do you believe that, guys? Why are you confusing the names of world leaders?
Thank you, everyone. Thank you very much.
I did not share classified information. I did not share it.
With your ghostwriter.
With my ghostwriter, I did not.
Bro, what is he
Guaranteed
doing?
But
Dude, Dark Brandon unleashed. Bro, this is like when I start yelling at all my fucking haters and pull them up to debate them.
The fact of the matter is, what I didn't want repeated, I didn't want him to know, and I didn't read it to him, was I had written a long memorandum to President Obama why we should not be in Afghanistan. And I was of multiple pages. And so what I was referring to, I said classified. I should have said it should be private because it was a contact between the president and the vice president as to what was going on. That's what he was referring to. It was not classified information in that document. That was not classified.
He's going nutty. He's doing it. The mad lad is doing it.
He called on me. When you look back at this incident, is there anything you would do differently now? And do you think that a special prosecutor should have been appointed in the first place in both of these cases?
First of all, what I would have done is oversee the transfer of the material that was in my office, in my offices. I should have done that. If I go back, I didn't have the responsibility to that. That was my staff was supposed to do that, and they referenced that in the report. And my staff did not do it in a way that, for example, I didn't know how half the boxes got in my garage until I found out staff gathered them up, put them together, and took them to the garage in my home. And all the stuff that was in my home was in filing cabinets that were either locked or able to be locked. It was in my house. It wasn't out in Mar-a-Lago in a public place and none of it was high classified. Didn't have any of that red stuff on it. You know
If he had a stroke right now, this would dramatically change everything.
I had paid more attention to how the documents were
medical grade cocaine that he has coursing through his veins.
I thought all of it was being moved. That's what I thought. Now, what was the last part of your question?
Whether a special counsel should have been appointed in this case and in the case of your rival president, former president.
I think a special counsel should have been appointed. And the reason I think a special counsel should have been appointed is because I did not want to be in a position that they looked at Trump and weren't going to look at me, just like they looked at the vice president. And the fact is they made a firm conclusion. I did not break the law, period. Thank you all very, very much.
Oh, dude. Oh, my God. The media is going to eat him, dude.
The hostage negotiation, look.
Oh, he's back. He's back for more. Oh, he said, I got that dog in me. One more.
As you know, that the conduct of the response in Gaza, in the Gaza Strip,
oh no,
has been over the top. I think that, as you know, initially, the president of Mexico, Sisi, did not want to open up the gate to allow.
Sisi, president of Mexico? That's Egypt, dog.
I talked to him. I convinced him to open the gate. I talked to Bibi to open the gate on the Israeli side. I've been pushing really hard, really hard.
Oh!
humanitarian assistance into Gaza. There are a lot of innocent people who are starving, a lot of innocent people who are in trouble and dying, and it's got to stop, number one. Number two, I was also in the position that I'm the guy that made the case that we have to do much more to increase the amount of material going in, including fuel, including other items. I've been on the phone with the Qataris, I've been on the phone with the Egyptians, I've been on the phone with the Saudis to get as much aid as we possibly can into Gaza. There are innocent people, innocent women and children who are also in badly in need of help. And so that's what we're pushing. And I'm pushing very hard now to deal with this hostage ceasefire because, I've been working tirelessly in this deal. How can I say this without revealing it? To lead to a sustained pause in the fighting, in the actions taking place in the Gaza Strip. And because I think if we could get the delay for that, the initial delay, I think that we would be able to extend that so that we could increase the prospect that this fighting in Gaza changes. There's also negotiations. You may recall, in the very beginning, right before Hamas attacked, I was in contact with the Saudis and others to work out a deal where they would recognize Israel's right to exist, make them part of the Middle East, and recognize them fully in return for certain things that the United States would commit to do. And the commitment that we were proposing to do related to two items. I'm not going to go in detail, but one of them was to deal with the protection against their arch enemy to the northwest, northeast, I should say. The second one, by providing ammunition and material for them to defend themselves. Coincidentally, that's the time frame when this broke out. I have no proof what I'm about to say, but it's not unreasonable to suspect that the Hamas understood what was about to take place and wanted to break it up before it happened.
Wait, what?
Thank you, everybody. We're going to need everybody to hold for a moment.
He said Hamas knew that. Oh Jesus! He said Hamas knew that that the fuck? Hamas knew that the Abraham Accords were coming to completion, and that's why they did it. Is that what he's saying? With no proof whatsoever, while also openly recognizing that he's got no. He said, "I got no evidence for this." Saudi officials' comments about normalization. Looks like Saudi Arabia just signed the death warrant of the Biden administration's efforts to normalize their relations with Israel. We've communicated our firm position to the U.S. administration that there will be no diplomatic relations with Israel unless an independent Palestinian state is recognized on the 1967 borders with East Jerusalem at its capital. Yeah, bro, I don't fucking believe anything that the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia says. Okay, get the fuck out of here. Okay, couple notes. Actually not bad. At first, I was going to say, I'm going to give Biden high marks on this. Controversial. Two things. One, definitely more aggressive in his stance against Israel. Probably the first time that he's actually been a little bit more aggressive against Israel. Most likely because they... Are you high? No. Listen. Molten hot take. I'm not joking at all. Okay. Way better than I thought it was going to be, partially because yelling at reporters oftentimes will play very well with the American population that also fucking hates the media for understandable reasons.
Willfully retain classified documents.
However, he did openly fucking say, I never gave classified information up. He pulled a Trumpian ass move. Okay? He pulled a Trumpian ass move. He did some Trump shit. Okay? Saying like, one, I didn't fucking reveal or leak classified information. He had one major flub where he said the Mexican president Sisi when he was talking about Egypt. That part is not good. 100%. He keeps fucking doing stuff like that. I'm shocked that he didn't do more of it, to be honest. But him yelling at reporters could actually play well. It could actually play well. He looked more dynamic than he ever has in months. Now, he still looks old as hell, obviously up there. But I don't know. I think that him yelling at reporters might play well. However, it might also backfire on him because I think that, like, when you engage with the media in that way, they're going to fucking keep digging. They're going to dig their heels in and they're going to start going crazy mode over, like, why did Biden say this? Is Biden turning into Trump? That sort of shit. It's like when people who are dying get one last burst of energy before they croak. He had the smoke for the first like 5 minutes and it clearly wore off. Wild how it was like a switch. Yeah. It's crazy when you see him like off script, when he like goes back for the second and you can just see his like synapses no longer are firing. That part is awful. But the first yelling part, depending on like how much they cover, depending on what they cover and what they choose to pay attention to, I don't know, him yelling at fucking reporters, it's not a bad look, especially when your major point, like your biggest weakness, is how not dynamic you are and how fucking old you are. Yelling at reporters can play really well, but not when it's about your senility in a conversation where you also display your senility. Just because you like yelling doesn't mean it will play well. No, the people fucking hate the media. So, and the people don't expect Biden to ever like pull out some non-civil shit. Shaming their media about like his son, like, or the shaming the special prosecutor about his son thing is a really solid way, in my opinion, to fucking neuter that conversation, even though it was bullshit. Okay. If I'm being for real, I think being like, oh yeah, I forgot my son's death, how dare you? It's a good way to try and basically dive on that grenade and just completely neutralize it, even though it's fucking bullshit. Okay. Yes, he 100% is demented. Yeah, I think that overall, like, when he came back, it was really interesting. The second time when he came back, like, his brain was, like, obviously short-circuiting. Hassan, he literally said, I wear the rosary, I got it, and just moved on. He was trying to prove a point about how his memory was sharp about Bo's death and funeral, and he couldn't even do that. This was a massive Biden hell. We'll see. We'll see. We'll see. You admit he's demented, but yelling about how he's not demented is a dub. Dude, he is so not fucking dynamic that any instance where he has like life can be portrayed, in my opinion, as like from people who want to desperately see him as like a valid candidate. They're going to look at it like maybe he has some life in him. Maybe he's got that dog in him. Addressing the allegations that you have dementia, not a great move regardless. I don't think that that's like smart. If he had this level of smoke for Israel, constantly talking about like, here's what I would do if I was Biden. Okay. Here's what I'm doing. I'm having that level of energy singularly for Netanyahu, because right now, if you're a liberal Zionist, you're only out, your fucking parachute, your ripcord in this circumstance is to blame Benjamin Netanyahu as the sole contributor to the death and destruction in Gaza. He can't even get himself to do that. This is the first time he said something along the lines of like, Israel's actions are unconscionable. This is the first time I've heard Brandon legitimately fucking like say anything that is like remotely critical of Israel. Okay. Even then there is also like obviously a little bit of uncertainty in the way that he delivered that. And that's not a bad thing politically to do, in my opinion. It's not a bad thing to do politically, and it's something that he should have been doing a long ass fucking time ago. Okay. And I assume that if this is the start of like a new wave of Brandon, he'll probably start positioning himself against Benjamin Netanyahu and saying, this is Benjamin Netanyahu's war. It's gone too long. And CNN hitting Biden on Mexico. That's the only thing from the press conference anyone's going to remember, Jeffrey Toobin says on CNN. God damn. CNN is being fucking extra hard on our boy here. Jesus Christ. Okay, that's interesting. I love seeing him be dynamic. The biggest hurdle has been for him to have a sense of personality. He's definitely a change up for sure. Yes, dude, he's always looking like a senile old bird, okay? He's looking like a cat that is like really old and doesn't fucking have the same step and is just like kind of looking like bruised up all the goddamn time. Any kind of like pop off for Brandon at this moment is going to be like, like that moment from the campaign trail where he would turn around and be like, look alive, fat. Listen, fat. Shit like that played well for him overall. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how this plays out. It is definitely above my expectations. I thought he was going to be real fucking bad. Okay? I thought he was going to be really, really, really fucking bad. I think the reception Blinken got in Israel and Netanyahu's refusal for a ceasefire, which Biden has been presenting himself as working on, pushed him over the edge. Yeah, that's what I think too. I think that this time around, I think Benjamin Netanyahu openly being like, fuck off, I'm going to do whatever the fuck I want, has probably finally gotten the liberals to recognize that, this shit's not manageable at all. It's far too late. A genocide has already occurred and it's continuously occurring. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. But I do foresee a change of pace here in the way that he talks about Israel. He didn't spend the entirety fucking shitting on Hamas and being like, it's all Hamas's fault and there is no genocide happening and that the death tolls are wrong and like UNRWA is also Hamas. That's usually what his fucking perspective is, okay? His perspective is like basically in lockstep with Benjamin Netanyahu. The Mexico thing was a big slip up, especially when basically you're doing it in the midst of a press conference about how you're not actually brain broken. Like, that's kind of fucked up. You can't have any moments where you flub. Having said that, I do think that two things that I think I will give higher marks on average to Biden on is the fact that he was at least a little bit more critical of Israel. And I think that spells a little bit of a change of pace, not to read the tea leaves too much. And the other thing is like, he looked a little bit dynamic in the beginning rather than like old and incredibly senile when he was yelling, even if the conversation that he was having was about how he is not senile. And I do think that he neutralized he forgot his son's death thing relatively well, making it like really, really fucked up to talk about almost. You know what I mean?
He said, I was elected to be the president for red states and green states. I hadn't heard that one before.
Yes,
I think it's red states
Dr. Seuss line.
And blue states. But go back to the picture that we're going to show now. Look at the garage. This is the president of the United States garage, Stephen Miller. This is where he was keeping information about U.S. weapons capabilities.
What about when he said he's the most qualified for the job? Yeah, that kind of stuff is just seasoning. Of course he's going to say that. It's fucking bullshit. Of course he's not the most qualified for the job. Okay?
Was so dilapidated and crumbled that they couldn't even pick it up. They had to take the classified documents and put it in another box. Now, this is a garage that Hunter's in and out of with Jackie Bao, who's tied to Chinese intelligence. This is where the garage doors open. They're going on a joyride in the Corvette. Now, you take this.
Okay, shut the fuck. Come on, dude. Come on. There's so many better avenues of attack for Biden. If I'm on Fox News right now, I'm not doing this dumb shit, okay? If I'm on Fox News right now, I'm going, man, how demented. Imagine being so demented that you think you can yell at the press like this. When Donald Trump used to yell at the press, we loved it because he was actually clear. He was actually clear and coherent in his yelling at the press. When Brandon tries to do it, it seems like a desperate old man. These guys fucking suck at their jobs, dude. I swear to God, I would be a better right-wing commentator. God, they suck so much ass. They're like, oh, look, this is a garage versus the Mar-a-Lago basement. Like, imagine being like, oh, well, Donald Trump's boxes had lids on them, whereas Brandon's boxes didn't. You guys fucking suck at your job, dude. Yeah, Donald Trump's boxes were in the bathroom, and nobody used that bathroom. Honestly, I feel like CNN is probably being more blistering in their commentary against Brandon than than Fox is right now. Let's hear it.
Supposedly cleared her of the use of classified information and then talked about how reckless and terrible she was. You know, the job of prosecutors is to put up or shut up. If you have a case, bring your case. If you don't have a case, shut the hell up or say as little. Do you think he's playing politics? I absolutely do. You know, Merrick Garland picked a Republican prosecutor, someone who worked for Donald Trump. I don't know why Merrick Garland chose him. Democrats seem to have this idea that if they pick Republicans for these tough jobs, they'll get some credit for it. It didn't work with James Comey, who was appointed by a Democrat. It didn't work with her. And I think this was there was no case to be brought here, but Hur did his best to damage Biden politically. Now, unfortunately for Biden, Biden didn't help himself today in his response, but the idea that this was put in this report, you know, that he was elderly, and that didn't belong in that report.
So some of it did feel very gratuitous. I do agree with that, but I do caution. I see an emerging narrative from Democrats that this is a partisan investigation by the DOJ. This was a Republican and a Trump appointee, so therefore he's putting.
Yes, to the chatters who are asking, that's Jeffrey Toobin, who is most famous for being caught zerking it on his goddamn Zoom call. Yes, that's Mr. Gooner. Jeffrey Toobin is probably the greatest political prisoner of our generation because, like, he literally was a gooner before gooning became as prominent. Like, sometimes you just got to goon. Sometimes you're gooning while you're on a Zoom call, okay? Yeah, who up playing with their tube, Jeffrey Toobin.
Did there. This comes with a lot of backdrop and a lot of concerns, and it's not just one moment in the report either. Also, in the last week, he's referenced dead European leaders who haven't been alive since the 90s, confusing them with current or almost current leaders. I think it's a bigger picture of the questions, and clearly the White House felt the need to address that, and that's why they made him come out for these abruptly scheduled remarks tonight.
Yeah, a couple of points. First, Joe Biden and Donald Trump are both old Americans, and there's nothing that we're going to be able to do in this election cycle to change that narrative except go directly at it. And I hear a lot of people tonight saying, I don't think it was a good move. Well, you can't just hide, because we're not in a normal political media atmosphere. Voters want a fighter. Voters want to say, you come at me and you talk about my son and me not remember when my son died, I'm going to tell you something. And so
See, I told you. Dude, liberals are such suckers for that shit. Okay, see? Liberals immediately eating that. Liberals are immediately eating that, dude. I'm telling you, they love that shit.
Mixed up Mexico and...
Dude, Biden literally won people forget, Biden won an election talking about how every single person he's ever loved has died, okay? Do you guys not remember? The 2020 election cycle literally was just like an endless sequence of Biden being like, everyone I know dies. Okay? He was literally doing an extended cut of Johnny Cash Hurt. What if I become my sweetest friend? Mourner in chief, 100%. He did that. He pulled the fucking mourner in chief ripcord again. He's going for the pity play, dude. Mr. Pity Pussy himself.
Behavior. It might not work for all voters, but he can't hide on this.
Doug, is that the case? Because when you look at polling, voters way more register that concern of age with Biden than they do with Trump, even though Trump is, as Ashley noted, just a few years behind him.
That's very true. And you hear that from younger voters. You hear it from older voters. My 90-year-old aunt in Little Silver, New Jersey today said, this guy's too old. And we hear this over and over again. And the problem for Biden is, yes, the issue's not going away because Biden's not going away. And every time he presents himself, there's a problem like this. You know, David Axelrod was praising earlier when he invoked his son Beau. What I heard was he mentioned the rosary from Our Lady of, and then he didn't name the church because he got stuck on a moment there. It reminds me very much of in 1994 in the fall going to see Frank Sinatra in concert at Merriweather Post, not far from here. And 1 minute Come Fly With Me was amazing. A few minutes later, he could barely remember the words from My Way. And what did we remember? that he couldn't remember the words to My Way. This is going to be a recurring problem for Biden. And ultimately, the Biden White House right now is saying three things. One, hey, a lot of people forget things. Two, he was slightly less responsible than Donald Trump. And three, there was a lot going on in the world with Israel. So let's cut him some slack. That's not strong messaging.
Audie, what did you hear in that?
I mean, I guess I'm the only one who's not as alarmed because I'm looking at it kind of holistically. This report comes out and this line is in it and they have to address it right away. There's no scenario where you let that sit. And in terms of media management, you want to be out there because what happened after he had his speech, we played a clip of him saying, "How dare you speak about my son that way?" We didn't play a clip of him, saying Mexico instead of Egypt. And I think people take these things in a different way than they used to. They're not sitting home at the couch waiting for him to speak. What they're going to do is see a number of clips. And your point is very well taken, that essentially there's a lot of young people who have been waiting for him to speak in some kind of striking way about Israel and Gaza, and specifically him saying, "I think they've gone overboard," using that kind of language. That's going to be very striking in the social media space. And also seeing all the reporters barking at him, yelling at him, saying, and then he's got quick, fast, snappy, defensive replies. I don't necessarily think, again, generationally, they're going to be like, whoa, he was sarcastic. I like a nicer Biden. That hasn't been what they've been asking for. So I'm just going to put it out there. I know everyone has said that this was bad for a number of reasons, but I would challenge our thinking on this in that people don't take it in the way we do, nitpicking at it because that's our job. They're going to get these emotional clips and they're going to walk away with his emotion, which was very intense, almost enraged, used the word seething, and people may hear particular clips and think, maybe it was justifiably so.
Yeah, I think some people, covering Biden, you realize he does have a temper. His whole staff, his allies, Kate Bedingfield, I'm sure would acknowledge that it is something that is known about him.
But if this report is saying he's Mr. Magoo, he can't come out and be Mr. Magoo. He's got to come out and be punchy and be the guy you're talking about.
This report, and a key part of this, Ellie, and to go back to what Jeffrey Toobin was saying there, the special counsel Robert Hur did have to issue a report. Those are his regulations. It was this lengthy report, which we were expecting. Was that him trying to explain why he didn't charge Biden, why that was going to be so long? What was your read on what he said?
So first of all, this report is required by the special counsel regulations. And if we want a precedent of somebody issuing a very long special counsel report without recommending a charge, look no further than Robert Mueller, who issued a 400-page special counsel report and did not specifically say, I recommend criminal charges. He was ambiguous and testified. Let me be clear about this. This is a very close call. I have written and read 1,000 of these documents. They're called prosecution memos. You lay out the facts and you say, here's my recommendation as to charging or not charging. Joe Biden is correct that Donald Trump's conduct was worse, but his conduct was still very close to the line. Here are the facts. Joe Biden, established by this report, Joe Biden retained sensitive classified documents after he left the vice presidency.
Marked classified? Or?
Yes, marked classified, highest level, top secret SCI. They related to our international affairs, to war plans, to foreign relations. He knew it. He knew it. He's on tape after he's out of the vice presidency saying to his autobiographer, the classified documents are in the basement. He knew it.
But he just denied that.
Exactly.
That was a key part of the report. It's the second sentence in the report, and he just denied sharing that with the ghostwriter. And I just looked at this closely. They had recorded conversations between Biden and this ghostwriter.
Exactly. That is what blew my mind about Joe Biden's statement. Two major things he just outright contradicts or is contradicted by, however you look at this report. There are two things he said that are completely the opposite of what Robert Hur found. And who do you believe is up to, I guess, the individual consumer. First, Joe Biden says, I did not act willfully. Willfully just means voluntarily, intentionally.
Are liberals abandoning Biden? CNN, I think, wants Trump to be president so they can get their ratings back. I'll say it. CNN has openly positioned itself as being more openly conservative. And I think part of that is because they want Trump back so they can get their ratings back. Nobody gives a fuck about the media. Nobody gives a fuck about the news. Nobody gives a fuck about politics. And I do think that like CNN is making a play, which, by the way, bro, I don't think it's openly conservative. I think he did badly in that interview. No. That's not what I'm talking about. No. Your opinion on the interview or your opinion on the situation in and of itself is not related to what I'm talking about with respect to CNN. I think CNN desperately wants to go back to the days where like they could shit on Trump and have a lot of people pay attention. But I think it's not going to happen, because part of the reason why I think the view counts have gone away from at least these places is because people are just not watching television as much. And I think CNN trying to be more conservative is not going to win over a conservative audience that already gets all the conservative messaging in a much more entertaining way from fucking Fox News. So they will probably like radicalize some of the liberals that are moderate and to become more conservative, but then the rest of the more progressive people will stop watching CNN because they're going to get mad. They'll alienate more and more of their base of like reliable watchers. I watch you in place where I used to watch CNN. Yeah, I mean, there's people like myself. There's TikTok. There's so many more avenues to get news. So many more avenues to get news from. I think that's part of the reason.